today in this session we are going to discuss about the in-memory computation, because this whole course is about the in-memory computation, where we are going to discuss about the Apache Spark. Okay, so during the lab's hands-on part, I am going to show you how we can execute the programs and how we can set up the environment. But in this introduction session about the in-memory computation, we'll talk about a very basic introduction today. What are the things are there in the Spark? Okay, so let's start any of the new technology. We should start from the history of that technology, how this technology came into the picture, what was the history behind that technology. Previously, you are aware about the disk-based processing like MapReduce technologies, where everything comes into the local disk, and from there the data fetch and everything will be done onto that. And that was quite slow as compared to this technology, because here everything will be in the memory, everything will be in the RAM. Maximum part, whatever the parts can be kept in the RAM, will be there in the RAM. Okay, so that is why it will be more, like you can say, much faster lightning speed as compared to MapReduce. But we should not forget that MapReduce was there in around 2004-5, and at that time that MapReduce was a very revolutionized technology, because it was able to distribute the data, it will distribute the computations on the distributed data, and then it was very, very efficient technology at that time. But later on, like as the IT fields is very revolutionized, very things are changes very quickly. This in-memory computation like Spark came into the picture. Okay, so now let's talk about the brief history so that we can understand this in-memory computation. So I am just writing, we are going to learn about the Spark. So let's talk about the history first. Now I'll tell you one thing. In approximately in 2009, in 2009 in the UC Berkeley University. So there was a UC Berkeley University, and in the UC Berkeley University there was an AMP Labs, where a lot of research PhDs are, like people do a lot of research projects are there. So in 2009 in the AMP Labs in the UC Berkeley, this Spark was introduced. And this Spark was introduced by, or you can say developed by, the person called, by the team rather I should say, but majorly we call as a person called Matei Zaharia. Matei Zaharia. Now Matei Zaharia was actually doing his research there in the AMP Labs, and he did his PhD from the AMP Labs, and now right now he is also a professor in Stanford, visiting professor, and as well as he's created his own company called Databricks. Okay. During his PhD, he worked on the paper called in-memory computation, and probably we are going to discuss that paper also later, right? So he developed one technique called RDDs, called resilient distributed data set, that is an in-memory computation, and then that from there the Spark came into the picture, right? So when this you can say Spark was being developed, so before that at the same time in the AMP lab, another project was going on called Apache Mesos. And if you remember Mesos, you have done Yarn. So Mesos is something like a resource manager, a cluster manager. So at the time there was a very, very important project was Mesos was being developed, and then at that time this MapReduce was used to test on the cluster manager, this Mesos cluster manager, and it was successfully like able to execute this Mesos project. But later on, when they were successfully able to test this MapReduce's programs on the Mesos through the cluster manager, and at that time there was no Yarn, right? At that time there was no Yarn. So later they tested Spark also. Then they tested Spark on Mesos, and it was able to run very fast. And actually objective was for the Mesos, and the Mesos was successfully developed and project in the Apache, right? But with that idea the Spark was there, and then Spark was parallelly tested on Mesos, and from there they thought that why not we should develop the Spark properly, and then we should keep have some more focus on the Spark so that they can be a good product, right? So now in 2010 this Apache project was like a, you can say, open sourced. And you know that why open source? Because if I develop a project, let's say if you develop any of the technology and then no one knows that technology, then it is of no use. Just to make it more popular and wide usages and more people should know, then it usually people donate this to Apache so that it comes under the Apache. So at that time, before donating to that, it was considered as an open sourced, and then it was open source under the BSD license. But there are some licenses are there. One of these is a BSD license, and then later on, in just to make it more aware to the people, or make it more, you can say, widely used, in 2013, this project was donated to the Apache Software Foundation, right? And then Matai Zaharia founded this company named as like Databricks, right? So this company name was Databricks, and in the same year, you can say in not in same year, like in next year, around 14 Feb 14, when this was introduced to Apache Software Foundation. Now in Feb 14, somewhere on Feb 14, this Apache projects become the top level Apache project. Now once it become an Apache top level Apache project, what happened in the November 2014, Databricks, this company Databricks, sets a new world record. The world record was about like you can say, in a large. So earlier the winner of this competition was Spark. Now earlier it was not Spark, earlier it was a MapReduce, and since the inception of this Spark, this project was actually set a new world record. That means this project is about sorting the 1 TB of data. Okay, so now during this exercise, like you can say Hadoop MapReduce, I'm talking about Hadoop MapReduce, it took around 72 minutes in having the 2000 or 2100 machines were there, and just to sort 100 TB of data. So that means earlier the MapReduce were the winner just to sort this one. So just sort. Now with this Spark, or you can say using Spark, only 23 minutes have been taken with around 206 machines were used, and same data to sort. So now you can see that this is approximately 30 times, because the number of machines are, these machines are 206. That means number of machines is approximately 10, and the speed is approximately 3. That means approximately 30 times faster than this. But in some of the use cases, it depends upon the use cases to use cases, the Spark is approximately 10 to 100 times faster than the 100 times faster than the MapReduce. Okay, so now in 2015, this become the one of the most active open source big data project, and this Spark is being used nowadays, widely used across the globe. We will see this later. So this is the widely used technologies nowadays. Okay, now let's move to the next one. So let's see what is a Spark. So very high level idea. I'm not getting into the detail, but very high level idea about the Spark. So what is a Spark? So we should know the definition. That this is, so now we can say that Spark is defined as a fast and very lightning fast and journal purpose distributed computing platform. Now you can also say that this is unified. The meaning of unified, that means you can see a lot of technologies under the hood of the Spark. So that means is a unified analytical engine for your large scale data processing, the way we did in MapReduce, so large scale data processing. Okay, so this is the basic idea about the Spark. That means it's very fast, and it's a very general purpose distributed computing framework. Why general purpose? I'll tell you. We'll discuss this in detail. And it's a unified analytical engine for your all the large scale need of the data processing. Right now, this Spark will provide you the high level APIs. It will provide you high level API in different languages like Java, or you can say Scala, or even in Python, and R. R is a statistical language. We will see this throughout this course. We will see the Java, Scala, and Python. Okay. Parallelly, we will do both the codes. We'll see all the codes for Scala and Python. Apart from this high-level APIs, it is also supporting you. It will also support you for high-level tools. I'm just talking about the tools. High-level tools. Those tools will be Spark SQL. This Spark SQL is like basically for SQL. You can execute SQL, and this SQL is about the structured data processing. So all the structured data is processed through the Spark SQL. Here we will see the data frame just like a pandas data frame. So Spark SQL. Apart from that, it will give you the mlib, which is your machine learning. It will give you GraphX. So GraphX is basically for your graph processing. Okay, so we are going to discuss this in detail later on, but I'm giving you it will give you the high level APIs for Java languages, Python, R. Okay, and we can also put SQL also over here, but it's not a high level, but it's like a 4th generation language, but SQL is also supported over here. But high level tool is having Spark SQL, and apart from that, it is also supporting for structured programming. Okay, structured programming. When I say structured programming, what I mean to say is I'm talking about the stream processing. I'm talking about the you can say anything which is coming incrementally. So that means incremental computation. Okay, so all this complete is one course which you're going to learn in the next semester. Okay, so this is about very high level idea about what is about the Spark definition. You can say that this is a definition for Spark, but we have not talked about what is a Spark exactly. Okay, right? So we will see whenever we learn any technology, we should know the history, what and why. These things should be always there in the lecture. What is a Spark? Why Spark is used? Okay, and little about the history. So when I say Spark, the best thing about Spark is it is open source. That means it comes under the Apache Software Foundation. Anyone can contribute to this open source of Spark, right? So when I say Spark, Spark is actually your distributed processing or computation processing framework. The same thing which we have discussed in the definition is called as unified. I'm just writing the line. I think previously also the unified analytical engine. Okay. Now the very interesting thing about the Spark is it is used for both your batch and interactive. That means it is used for both batch programming as well as for the interactive programming. And in Python, in MapReduce, that was a batch, completely batch programming, right? So now this Spark you can use for streaming data. That means apart from the batch, it can also be used for streaming data. Streaming data means live data. Okay, it is very fast. Now this Spark is new technology. That means it is having a more use cases. That means wide set of use cases as compared to your MapReduce. Okay, the wide set of use cases as compared to MapReduce. Now the very interesting thing, which is you can say definition of this Spark is like a journal purpose cluster computing framework. Cluster because you can have more than one systems, they are connected. Computing framework because it comes under the big data pipeline for the you can say big data processing. Okay, and journal purpose we are going to discuss. Internally the Spark uses the DAG, that is called directed acyclic graph, and this DAG is a very important concept for making it fast. Okay, if you know TensorFlow, that means this is also used DAG. Even the latest technologies the Google are using nowadays, every technology will use a DAG, directed acyclic graph. Okay, so we will discuss in detail how this is helpful. Now the Spark will be having a query optimizer. This is comes under the advanced Spark. The query optimizer like Tungsten. So they use Tungstens and query optimizer that will optimize your query and make it very fast. So this is the this comes under the 2.x version of Spark, right? Now it contains the physical execution engine. Physical execution engine it contains, and then we will see completely, when we see the complete working of this Spark, then I will show you what are the different executors, what are the worker nodes, different things I'm going to show you there, right? Now it supports multiple technologies, like as we discussed, Java, Scala, Python, R, SQL. Now the important thing is this Spark is written in Scala. So this Spark is written in Scala. Spark over here, and this Spark is written in Scala. Okay. Now I'm giving you a very high level idea, just an idea that this is a Spark and this is written in Scala. Okay. So when I say Scala, what I mean to say is this Scala is a scalable and this is a functional programming we have done in the last semester. Okay, and this Scala is also a JVM based language, right? Now if you write code in Scala, then you can directly use this Spark because you know it is written in Scala. All the APIs translation will be same. They can easily understand. If we are using Python, let's say with Python we have to call PySpark, which is a wrapper. Wrapper means this is a wrapper over here, and we write a code in PySpark over here, then this will be conversion from this to this. So this layer will be your layer of abstraction. Okay, so this layer is actually your connector which converts from the Python to Scala code. Are you getting my point? This is called Py 4J connectors, right? That means this is your additional codes. Now good thing is, like, if you know Scala and you're writing in Scala, that means it is very fast, but in Python it will need some kind of translation, so little slower, not that much, but it's little slower. So that means when I say Python, that means with Python there will be some extra time. So with Python there will be some extra translation time. So that means it will be a little slower as compared to Python. And if you're using PySpark, and I say Python, I'm talking about PySpark. So there will, with PySpark, there will be late release. That means because Scala has the latest release. Are you getting my point? Because Spark is written in Scala, and if there is any changes in the Spark, that means the Scala can easily accommodate. But for Python, they need to add here new code, add new code for any changes. Are you getting my point? So for conversion, we need to do this. But the good part of the Python is it is having a low learning curve, but Scala is having a high learning curve because Python is very easy language to learn as compared to Scala, right? So this is a very simple part. So this will give you an idea about the difference between Python and Scala when we are going to use that. But difference will be very short with our program because we are not going to use very heavy databases. So we have, let's say, core Spark. So there is, in Spark we have a core Spark, just like a kernel of the Linux. So we have a Spark, we have a core Spark. Okay. So when I say Spark, that means I'm talking about core Spark. This core Spark, we can execute the things in R language, right? In Java, in Python, in Scala, or we can also use some SQL language. So this is the core of the Spark, and outside this, we can also use different technologies like Spark SQL. Okay. Similarly, we can also use streamings. We can also use machine learning, MLib, or we can also use GraphX for graph processing. And apart from this, so now what I'm writing over here is how we can execute this Spark. We can also use Yarn because you have the Quick Start Cloudera Quick Start VM, and in this VM Spark is also there, but the version is different. Version is like 1.6 something. So Yarn is also there. We can also use Mesos Cluster Manager, or we can use local machine, or we can use standalone cluster manager of the Spark. But this is not used in the production. Either we use Yarn. Mesos is also not used that much, right? And for streaming, the data will come from where? For streaming, the data will come from a Kafka or from other technology called Flume. Kafka, you know that Flume is for log data. Kafka is for your real-time data, stream data, right? Or some example like Twitter analysis, Twitter data, keep on coming. Okay. Now, very interesting thing is for Mesos, we need a JK, which is called Zookeeper. Here also we need a Zookeeper. Okay. Here also we need a Zookeeper. We have to use Zookeeper. In the lab, in the hands-on part, we are going to see how we execute these programs. Okay. So this is about the Spark. So now let's move to the why Spark is being used. Now transition from the MapReduce to Spark. So just I'm writing over here, it's called MapReduce, which is actually basically a Hadoop ecosystem major contributor. And here we have a Spark. The Spark we can use individually also, not necessary to be a part of Hadoop. I'll just show you how we can use Spark individually also. So this is your journal batch processing, and this is your journal unified engine, which is Spark. Now I just want to tell you, when there was Hadoop and then you want to process the data, MapReduce was a good choice, okay, before Spark. So why Spark? I'm coming to that point. Now with MapReduce, you can only use data processing, right, which we have done through different programs of MapReduce. But let's say if you want to use some kind of streaming into that, so then we need another project, another technology, another tool from the big data kitty. So there was Apache Storm. Okay, that means Apache. Now if you want to use some kind of machine learning, then you need to use some other tool called Mahout. If you want to use graphics, that means you have to use GraphLibs or Giraffe. Okay, or even you have already used for analytical, you have used Hives or Impala. Similarly, for more processing, we have a Tej, okay, which enhance the speed of the MapReduce. We have a Pregel for graph again. We have data store, we have a S4. Similarly, we have Apache Drill. We have n number of projects. So actually, these projects are specialized systems which should need to integrate with the MapReduce if you want to use this. But with the Spark, everything will be there in the Spark. That is what you call journal purpose, unified. If you want to use machine learning, you have a MLib. If you want to use graph, they have GraphX. If you want to do processing, it is already there in the Spark. If you want to use data structure analytics, like all the analytics in this, it is having data frames. That means Spark is unified. Now that is why speed, or you can say fast or speed, was the second option for the Spark. That Spark is very, very fast. That is why Spark in the picture. But the major reason was that it is a unified one. Every technology is within the Spark instead of collaborating with n number of things. So you should know the MapReduce. You should also know the Mahout. You should know the graph libraries, Apache Storm, and different things. Now the question comes, why Spark? So I'm just using this. You know that open source has the more power. So Spark is open source. Why Spark? Because Spark is open source and it actually abstract everything from you. Let's say the abstract the parallel programming, or you can say parallel, and it is very, very easy to write the code in the Spark. Either use Scala or Python. So that means very, very easy to use as compared to MapReduce. It is having a lots of boilerplate code, and it is very, very fast, lightning fast, because it is in memory computation. And writing code is, there is no boilerplate code. If you remember in MapReduce, there is a lot of code. That means we have a concise code. That means when we have a concise code, no boilerplate code, that means there will be productivity will be high, right? And it is having a wider, you can say wide support. This technology is having a wide support. That means it is having a support from like company called Databricks, Cloudera, I am writing Hortonworks separate, but now they are the merged company. But in Hortonworks also still you can use, and you can say another company called MapR. This is called MapR Distribution. Now it is acquired by the HPE. Okay, and even IBM also using this supports for that. And why Spark? That means it is having a support for multiple languages. What we discussed like Java, Scala, Python. I'm putting R also into that. That means this is your polyglot. Okay, this is called a polyglot because when it supports multiple languages. Now, apart from that, what we have discussed is like why Spark, because it is a general purpose. Now, the best part is I'm going to show you the difference between the MapReduce and Spark later on also, but just I want to tell you that it is also having a fault tolerance. The Spark support fault tolerance. The fault tolerance means that if anything thing fail on the cluster, the data will be there, and then it is using a different technologies apart from the replication. So it is a fault tolerance, and it is having a lazy evaluation. The lazy evaluations comes under the DAG, and which this lazy evaluation makes the Spark very, very fast. It is also support for stream processing, right? Now you can say this Spark is very well integrated with Hadoop, or you can say NoSQL databases, or you can say Kafka. Okay, but I mean to say that Hadoop ecosystem. I'm talking about Hadoop. Now, when you learn Spark, then you will come to know that this Spark is, you can say, is a unified framework for your scalable. When I use the word scalable, that means you can scale to and means you can scale largely. So it's scalable data science. Okay, and you can say scalable machine learning. So this is the beauty for that. Even for, you can say, micro batch. When I say micro batch, what I mean to say that is this Spark is not supporting the real-time data, but near real-time data, and which it treat as a micro batches, small batches, very, very small batches. Good part is that you can deploy. That means deployment can be on Mesos, it can be on your Yarn, it can be your own cluster manager, and even Kubernetes also. Very interesting, that is Kubernetes. Now, few more things that we should know about Yarn, because why we are using Yarn, that means it is having immutable things, and you know that in functional programming, immutable is very, very important concept, and this provide immutable through RDDs, and we are going to discuss in detail about this RDDs. Resilient distributed. It also support REPL, that means read evaluation print loop. Right? This is called, or we can, I am putting as an interactive shell, and this interactive shell you will see through PySpark for Python, and you can say Spark underscore shell through Scala. So it is having a interactive shells, and it is very much scalable, or scalability is there. Very interesting thing about this Spark is like it is having a very good or great support. You can say great support for iterative algorithm. When I say iterative algorithm, I mean to say that this is actually a machine learning algorithm. Okay, and machine learning algorithm, iterative algorithm, that means it works iteratively on the works on same data, and you can say it is very, very good for joining data set, and we are going to see this joining data sets in some time. Okay, so this is about why Spark. So now we have done what is a Spark, why Spark, and we should know at least few of the limitation of the Spark also before moving into that. But before limitation, we should know what are the use cases for the Spark. So let's understand the use cases. So this Spark is used for ETLs. So I am writing about the scalable ETL because it is using scalability. So scalable ETLs, extract, transform, load. It is used for all the application which is having stream processing, or you can say IoT kind of data is coming on. Internet of Things, continuous data from coming from the sensor, or use cases are there in the machine learning, data sciences, data integration. Anywhere where the data integration is there, it is being used, and interactive analysis. You can do interactive analysis. You can write something, you will get the answer. Okay, through shell also, or through notebooks also. And it is also used for iterative algorithm. Iterative algorithms are like the algorithm which works on the same data, keep on and on. This is very good used for social graph with the help of graph X, social graph process. Spark is used for the real-time fraud detection, and it is also used for recommendation engine. Why? Because it is also supporting machine learning and customer segmentation. So there are n number of uses are there. Okay, these are the general uses. It is not about the particular use case, but if we talk about the real world use cases, so I can give you some examples. Like this is being used by the Uber. This is being used by the company called Pinterest. You might heard about this. eBay. Earlier it was the leader of the customer retail services. Alibaba, or you can say Netflix also using this, and TripAdvisor. These are the one of the major companies, and many more companies are there. These are the simple cases of this. And apart from that, we should know what is a limitation. So what is the limitation of the Spark? The first point is Spark is not having any kind of storage. This is a processing engine, analytical engine. It's not a storage, right? But it can interact with other storage mediums like HDFS. They can interact. Amazon services, Amazon S3s, okay, Google Cloud Storage. It can interact with that. Local file system also. Another limitation is no real-time data processing. In this, there is no real time, because real time is very fast, but it is a near real time. And internally it is called micro batches. We will see this when we'll do the streaming. Okay, and I must write, it is not good for small files. Why it is not good for? Because this is meant for the large big data files. For small files we can use some other technology also. That is why it is not actually a good use case. Not good in the sense, I want to say it's not a good use case for the small file. For small file we can also use some other technology also. We should not invest time on the Spark. There is limitation is multi-user. There is no multi-user environment. Okay. Another is low latency. Latency is not that much. If you want a very low latency, then we should use some other technologies. So just parallelly, I want to write few things like no storage, but it is having a good. When I say no storage, it is having a interaction with other storage systems, right? Solution is done. No real time. For real time, Apache Storm is good for real time. For small file system, you can use any of the other technologies. For multi-user, that means for multi-user we can use Hive. Hive can provide this feature for multi-user environment. For low latency, instead of that, we should use for Kafka, because Kafka is having a very high low latency, high throughput, and Kafka is very superior or very good for end-to-end. You can say latency. If you want to check end-to-end latency, that includes the real-time processing, right? You have done Kafka in the earlier also, then it is very good. Other thing, limitations from the Spark is it is not for OLTP, online transaction processing, but for OLAP. Okay, this is called online processing. Okay, so this is good for this. So that's all for the today's session.